Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to Andrew's Life. I hope everyone's doing great today. Honestly, I meant to clean myself up a little bit, as in, I meant to do a little bit of shaving before I came up on the camera to do a video, but I just got off of work. I went from my main job to a secondary job, and I did that job for a little longer than what I've anticipated. So I just got back home, and there's only a little bit of time left before it gets dark out here. So I thought I would do a quick video before it got dark, because I really don't want to do a video inside my house. I mean, it's nice outside, and I'm trying to enjoy the outdoors as much as I can. It's fresh air out here, and I'm also fighting a sinus cold, which it's been kicking my butt for the last several days. So I'm feeling a little tired right now, so I'm gonna most likely go to bed when I cut this camera off. So I just wanted to do a quick video just to give you guys an update of what my plans are moving forward with life, you can say. Now, for those of you that have been watching me, you know that I've been out here looking at houses to purchase. I've been driving back and forth from here in Alabama, where I currently reside, up to Indiana, where I used to reside for many years. I was hoping to purchase a house up there that could double up as for now, it would have been a rental property that I can make money off of intentionally. And ultimately, it would have also been a property that I could move into and I could live out of at least a few months out of the year, because I've considered splitting my time between here and Indiana at some point. To make a long story short, some of you guys may have already known this, because I alluded to this Friday when I made my first video about the house I was looking at buying. But I did not buy that house. And let me tell you guys what happened. Now, if you go back on this channel and you watch my previous videos, you know, you'll see you'll get an idea what happened. But basically, here's what happened afterwards. Now, I told my agent that I was most likely not going to buy the house. My agent told me that, okay, well, I should at least give the seller a chance to fix up everything that I wanted fixed, to address the concerns that I had that showed up on the home inspection. So, you know, I knew from the beginning that was going to be an utter waste of my time, because anyone that couldn't even be bothered to cut the water on inspection day is not going to go through and make any of the repairs that showed up on my inspection report that I pointed out in the video that I made back on Friday when I was at the house at the home inspection. So I knew that was going to be an utter waste of my time, and I even told that to my agent. But my agent insisted that I at least give him a chance. Okay, I'll give him a chance. Cool, whatever. I mean, there was a small part of me that wanted to buy that house, because I'm thinking, okay, well, if they go through and they fix everything that was on the report that I saw, that the home inspector saw, that I showed you guys on the video, at least most of it, then I'll be cool with buying that house, provided that it also stays at the same price that we agreed upon initially, which was $48,000. No, it's $45,000. Well, so my agent wrote everything up, and my agent gave it to the seller's agent. And it took the seller's agent 2 whole days just to come back to my agent and tell my agent, in writing, of course, that they'll be willing to give me $500 for everything that needs to be fixed in the house. That's a total of $500. Now, without me calling out contractors to get a estimate of what everything would run for me to have repaired, because given I'm living across the country, I wouldn't have time to do it myself, and some of that stuff I'm just not qualified to do myself. So, so just taking everything that needed to be done into consideration, which basically it needed a new roof, it needed mold removal, it has some minor electrical and plumbing issues as well. So basically everything that I addressed, all the concerns that I addressed to the seller, I would say those repairs together would have ran, I would say on the low end, it would have been about $20,000. I'm going to say it would have been about 20. I don't know exactly. I didn't do any estimates. I'm just speculating. So, yeah, just the other day, my agent emailed me the response from the seller's agent, and they told me they would give me $500 for everything. I had to look at it 3 times to make sure my eyes weren't tripping, make sure I wouldn't just seeing stuff. And yeah, $500. I looked at it 3 times. And then I called my agent and I told my agent that, well, did you see, I take it you saw the report. Not the report, I took it you saw the response. My agent nonchalantly said yes. And I told my agent, well, you know what that means, I'm going to cancel. So let's go ahead and get me out of this contract because I'm not going to buy the property. So my agent was like, you sure want to do that? And I told my agent, yes, I definitely want to do it. Because the house is not worth my agreed upon price with all the issues that came up. And again, if you know the market of Indiana, of small city Indiana, you know. So I'm going to leave it like that. So I told my agent, yes, I don't want to buy the house. Let's do what we got to do to get me out of the contract and get my earnest money back. So fortunately, I will have my earnest money coming back. So therefore, the only money I'm going to lose is the money that I spent for the home inspection, which, whatever. That's money well spent. And I'd rather lose that money, which the home inspection ran me $425. It was real spent $425. So I'd rather lose $425 than to buy the house and lose way more on fixing everything, and then I may or I may not get a good tenant, and I will most likely lose money on the house if I were to sell it. Even after many years, I will still lose money. I'm anticipating. I don't want to take any chances of losing money, so I decided, no, I'm not going to buy the house. So I was thinking, I don't know, I was waiting for my agent to say something like, man, I can't believe they only gave you $500. That's crazy. But no, my agent wanted me to move forward and buy the house regardless. And I told my agent, I'm not doing it. No. So now that I've decided to not buy that house, I've also decided to not look around for no more houses anywhere. I'm not looking around for no more houses in Indiana for now. Now, I'm not going to give up my dream of one day becoming, at this point, I can't even say that it's a dream anymore, because to be quite frank with you people, yes, a part of me would still like to own a few pieces of real estate, rent them out, make a little bit of money. But then when I stop and I think of the cost per property to do everything that's necessary to keep the property rent worthy, the money that I make is not going to be as much as what some people might think. Like if I rent a property out for, let's say, $1,000 a month, by the time I factor in property taxes, insurances, repair, maintenance, a little bit of money set aside for just in case I have to evict a tenant, a little bit of money set aside for turnover, just for whenever the person decides that they don't want to be there no more and they choose to move out, and for whatever reason they trash the house or they leave it in less than ideal condition. So when I factor all the money that I would have to set aside just to run that type of a business, off of $1,000 per month rent, I estimate I would probably make around $400 to $500. And just that, and for those of you that are going to be going into that kind of business and you have to rely on some kind of a loan or some kind of a mortgage, think about that for a minute. Think about that for a minute. And I would say for most people that go into real estate, they find out the hard way that you really don't make a whole lot of money in real estate. You really don't. I mean, a few people do, but I would say most people don't. I would say a lot of people, more so than what you would like, more so than what many people would like to realize, lose money in real estate. And also, over the years, as I've looked at houses that used to be rental properties, I also get a chance to see how people live. And I gotta say, some people live like absolute slobs. Some people live like absolute animals. Now, that house that I showed you guys on Friday, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back on the channel, watch that video. It's a video of me doing a home inspection. I'm wearing a red and white. I'm wearing a red t-shirt with some white printing on it. So that video was back on Friday. It was like, let's see, today is Wednesday, so that video was 5 days ago. So anyways, but when I was in that house, I mean, the seller's agent assured my agent that just a couple months prior, there was actually somebody living in that house, which I do believe. So whoever was in that house, I mean, they're living in a house that had mold. They're living in a house that did not have a proper climate control setup. So that just goes to let you know how some people live. And to me, anybody that was neat, anybody that was clean, anybody that cared about their living quarters wouldn't be living in that type of condition. And there's people that live like that for several years. So, you know, when I go and I look at a lot of these properties that used to be rentals, it forces me to realize that you got a lot of people that are slobs. They're nasty. And I'm not real crazy about renting my property out to a person who is a slob. Now, obviously, if I get into that line of business, I'm not, I can do my best in screening the person. I can have all type of rules and regulations set up. I can even do inspections on a regular basis. But at any given moment, if that person decides to not pay their rent, they decide that they're not going to let me in the house no more, unfortunately, there's not much I'm going to be able to do legally until the day of the eviction, which that makes me a little nervous, I'm not going to lie. So rather or rather not, I'm going to let it, I mean, like I said, there's a part of me that would like to go into real estate investing, just being a landlord. But then there's the other part of me that I am a bit hesitant on going into real estate. Now, maybe if the housing prices come down substantially, like if I can buy a house and have it all put together, rent worthy, turnkey, moving ready, and everything for less than $50,000, I might consider it down the road. But even then, I don't know. But anything over 50, I'm definitely not going to do it, because the amount of money I would have to have up for one piece of property, for one piece of real estate. And then when I look at the money I'm going to get per month, minus all the money I would have to put in, I would have to put back in. So when I take into consideration the amount of money I would get profit-wise in all reality, and then I look at the amount of money I had to put up initially, I look at the risk associated with becoming a landlord. I'm not even sure that being a landlord is even worth it for me. Now, I can't speak for everybody else out here. I'm just speaking for myself. So yeah, I'm not even, I'm not even sure that for me being a landlord would be worth it, to be quite frank. A part of me is thinking that if I start some sort of online business selling some merch, I could probably make more money doing that as opposed to becoming a landlord. Maybe not in the beginning, but in the long run. That's what I'm thinking. And plus, if I sold merch, I wouldn't have to deal with evictions. I wouldn't have to have a bunch of money put up for a piece of real estate. I wouldn't have to worry about none of the red tape of the city or the county, none of that bullshit. And also up in Indiana, from what I understand, if I did become a landlord, if my tenant skips out and they skip out on paying their utility bills, guess what? Those bills, they don't follow. They don't necessarily follow the customer if the customer is a renter. They follow the property. And since I'm the owner, I will then be responsible for those bills. And the utility companies in many parts of Indiana, at some point, they will put a lien on the property until those utility bills are paid up in full. And that's another thing that I gotta take into consideration when it comes to utilities. Like if I have a tenant that runs up utilities like a few $1,000s, I don't see how that could happen. But I'm just talking generically. If they run up some utility bills a few $1,000s, I'm gonna be on the hook for that if they decide to skip out one day for whatever reason. So there's a lot of things that I've been thinking about when it comes to being a landlord. One of the reasons why I don't want to have too much of my money tied up in the real estate like that. Which is another reason why when I was out here looking at buying real estate, I made sure that I wasn't going to be out here getting ripped off, buying some houses falling apart and still paying a premium price. And another thing that I've been noticing a lot when I'm out here looking at houses is, even if I look at houses for, let's say, $80,000, $90,000, and $100,000, which I would say 4 years ago even, up in most parts of Indiana, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 may not purchase you a mansion, but it would have purchased you a house in a working class area that would have been at least habitable. And as far as the property needing work, okay, I may have had to throw a little bit of paint on, or maybe I may have had to buy a new piece of appliance, or maybe it may have needed some new carpet or something minor like that. Mainly cosmetic stuff. But now when I look at houses for, let's say, $100,000, I'm still seeing houses that are either A, if they're even move-in condition ready, a lot of the houses are, the square footage is very small. The lot size in most cases are relatively small. Like when I say small, I'm talking less than 6,000 square feet. On top of that, some of these properties are even located in less than desirable neighborhoods, Like some of these properties are straight up in the hood. Or two, if I see houses in that price range that might be in a neighborhood that's half decent, or a neighborhood that I would consider to be okay, the amount of work that some of these houses need is crazy. I mean, the house itself, okay, they're asking 100. I talk them down to 80, so I buy it for 80. But some of these houses, they need so much repairs that I'll be coming out at least an additional $50,000 just to renovate it. So I put myself in a situation to where I got all this money tied up into this one piece of real estate, and the amount of money that I'll be making every month on rents in profit after I pay all the bills associated with owning that piece of real estate. Like I said, if I rent it out for, let's say, $1,000 a month, my profit will be $400 to $500 a month. And you guys got to take into consideration, I'm not going to have a mortgage on any of these houses that I'm talking about. Most of you, if you do this, you will have a mortgage. You will have a loan to pay back. So think about that. And also, the figures I'm giving out to you as far as profit, as far as my potential profit, if I were to move forward and buy a house up in Indiana, that is assuming that my tenants pay my rent. They pay me the rent they owe me on time. And they don't tear up my property. And I will never have to carry out an eviction. And not too many things are going to fall apart. That's a lot of assumptions. That's a lot of assumptions. And yes, I've had those thoughts in my head all along, even while I was out here getting excited looking at all these different properties up in Indiana. So I think I made the right decision by not buying that house. And I also think I'm making the right decision by not looking at any more houses. Because again, what I'm looking at, the houses I'm seeing out here on the market and the prices that people are wanting, in my opinion, are way overpriced. It's way too expensive. And I'd rather just go ahead, sit out and wait for maybe a year or two or 3 years, whatever, and wait for the housing market to correct itself a little bit, which I do believe will happen. Because the prices that we're seeing today, as I've said a few years ago on this channel, have been artificially inflated. They've been artificially inflated by the super low interest rates. And all these so-called investors are able to get cash loans and buy houses they're able to buy a bunch of houses at a time for not too much money. Because they're not, these so-called cash buyers, as I told you before, they're not really paying cash. They're receiving cash loans, and they're using that cash to pay for the houses. So the real estate market, as we see it right now today, has been artificially inflated. The housing price inflation that many of y'all are seeing today is not normal. And I am looking forward for the housing market to correct itself a little bit, to where some of these prices lower a little bit, to where the prices once again will make a little bit more sense than what it currently makes. In fact, I saw a house today online that was for sale. And I'm thinking, man, this house looks pretty nice. They're asking $45,000 for this particular house. And yes, it was up in Indiana. It was in a small city up in Indiana. Now this house was like 1,000 square feet, 6,500 square feet worth of a yard. And then when I read the description and I scrolled through the pictures and looked at the different pics that the agent took, the house had fire damage. So now you got people that are selling houses with fire damage for $45,000, which is insane. So that's just to tell you guys how insane the current housing market is. How much of a ripoff the majority of your houses out here are. So given the fact that the market is the way it is, and these housing prices are still ridiculous, they're still a ripoff, I've decided to quit looking at houses. I decided to not buy no houses. The money that I was going to use to buy a house, and this is not financial advice, this is something that I'm going to do, but the money that I've decided to use towards buying a house, I was going to take those funds and put it back in mutual funds and put some of it back in the mutual funds, take some of it and start myself some sort of an online business, selling some merch of some sort. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not buying no more houses. I'm not buying nothing up in Indiana. Everything up there is way too expensive. I'll just stay with my, I'll just stay with half of my trailer and I'll fix it up a little bit and get that on the market and rent that out. I've already had a few people ask me about it, so I'm going to get it fixed up and do my due diligence on some of these people, and hopefully by the first of the year I can get that rented out. But other than that, I'm not going to be no landlord. Other than that trailer, I'm not going to be a landlord to any other property. I'm not going to be out here buying real estate. Even here in Alabama where I'm at, I'm looking at a lot of houses and there's nothing down here that I want to buy. Because, like I told you guys before, I really wanted to invest up in Indiana. So that's my update. So moving forward, I'm going to fix my trailer up. I'm going to rent that out by the first of the year. And I'm going to continue to focus on my presence here on YouTube. I thought about creating another channel. I'll let you guys know later about that channel. And I need to get back to eating healthier. I need to get back to focusing on my health because I look like shit right now. And that's basically what I'm going to do moving forward. I'm going to just focus on other things that are important in my life. There's way more to my life than just real estate. So I'm going to focus on other things in my life that are valuable to me. So if you hung out for this long, I appreciate you stopping by and watching. And until next time, stay blessed. I'll catch you on the next one.